Yeah, we're recording. Oh, I should record.
So,
Krishna, Krishna.
Guru's watching you. Then switch everything off if you don't mind.
Okay.
Like all the adverts, all these things.
Doesn't want to go off. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare. Welcome everyone. We're waiting for everyone to get online and then we're going to start. Till then, we're actually waiting for all of you. You all appear. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're going to title this Separation Increases Love. Did you know that? Nobody wants to be separated, but it increases love. I think for now, maybe, I just need to get access my files. We're having internet challenges here. I want to access some files.
I also saw a problem recently. I couldn't connect.
Right.
Dan kan je via Beestenbender proberen.
Okay, that's good.
Oh, yeah.
Feeling separation from Krishna. Wow, there's so much about this. I want to do that. I don't know, I was reading before, that I was preparing for the class last week, but then I couldn't get online. Let's see. Nick, can you, in the blue suitcase, which is now open, I have that recorder, it's in a black bag, this size. Okay, so what we're on the topic of love, and we're going to talk about love and separation. It's an aspect of love of Krishna. And part of the purpose of this series is to show how the difference between love in the material world and love in Krishna consciousness. And in many ways they're actually very similar. But at the same time they're very different. And we need to distinguish the differences. If we don't distinguish the difference, then it becomes difficult to understand what love of Krishna is. So it's interesting that there's similarities, at the same time there's huge differences. I don't know if they're huge difference. In a sense, huge difference. So, I want to... I'm just getting set up to record this. We just got back from... where were we? This morning we were in Berlin, we just got back. And we're having an exciting time. And I'm just loading my recorder here. So, you're familiar with the Shishashtakam, I'm sure. Yugaitam nimeshena chakshusha pravishayatam shunyayitam jagat sarvam govinda virahena me. You know what that means? You know because I sang it, right? Krishna, a moment feels like 12 years or more. Yugaitam nimeshena chakshusha pravishayitam shunyayitam jagat sarvam govinda virahena me. Krishna, feeling your separation, I consider a moment to be 12 years or more, and tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world without you. Okay, so materially, this can also happen, right? Separation from your girlfriend, you feel separation. A moment feels like 12 years or more? Sometimes. But usually you're feeling separation from the sense gratification you get from your girlfriend or your boyfriend. So, right? Sometimes you feel Yeah, you feel separation from the sense gratification you get from your boyfriend or girlfriend. But anyway, in Vaishnava philosophy, it teaches that the feelings of love that we have for Krishna are greater when we're separated from Krishna. Did you know that? That they're more intensified because Krishna... Oh, here's a verse. This verse is from where? Rupa Goswami, from Pajavali. If I have to choose between union with Krishna and separation from him, I would choose separation. Because when I'm with Krishna, I only see Krishna. This is really good. I only see Krishna, but when I'm separated from him, then I see Krishna coming toward me from every corner of the universe. Do you understand? That Rupa Goswami is saying, in Krishna's presence, I see Krishna in front of me. In his absence, I see him everywhere. Everything reminds me of Krishna. So that's the intensity of love. That when you love someone on that level and they're separated, then everything reminds you of them and you think of them more. Then sometimes in the material world you have that experience. Sometimes you have the opposite experience, that you're with someone, you love them, but sometimes it's good to get away from them. Krishna consciousness, it's not like that. But Krishna, as you know, Krishna left Vrindavan and he didn't come back for like 93 years. And so people think, well, that wasn't very good. You know, he should have come back because they were suffering. And the suffering, yes, it looks like they were suffering, but they were suffering in love. And so actually their love for Krishna was more intensified. And, you know, Krishna knows how to, Krishna knows how to intensify love. And so that's what he did by leaving. He intensified their love. So don't blame Krishna for leaving Vrindavan. It actually increased the love of the gopis. Now, next question. Well, there are 5 stages of separation, and we'll ask a question which will help us understand the first stage of separation. The natural question is, if I've never met Krishna, how can I feel separation from him? And our teachings are that we should feel separation, and feeling separation is like the highest position you could achieve if you feel separation from Krishna. That's powerful, that's good, that's what we want. We want to feel so much love that when we're separated, we kind of go crazy. And Lord Chaitanya exhibited that by saying that, he said, I don't have love for Krishna, and the reason that I can say that is because I'm separated from him and I'm still maintaining my life. I'm still alive. If I actually loved him, how could I live without him? I'm somehow allergic to Amsterdam. I just got back, so you have to excuse me. My nose feels like it's full of little ants crawling in it, trying to tickle me. Something in Amsterdam I'm allergic to. So Lord Chaitanya is saying, he's saying this is love, that you have so much love that Lord Chaitanya is thinking, and I'm still living. How could I maintain my life? How could I still be living? That must mean I don't have love for Krishna, because if I had love for Krishna, I would just die in separation. Right? Would you die in separation if you love somebody and you're separated from them? Wouldn't you die? You might. I need something to blow my nose. anyway, it brings up the point, and we're defining what is love, we're distinguishing what is love, material love from spiritual love. And so, I'm sure in the material world someone may have killed himself out of feeling separation. But Lord Chaitanya's, he's not talking about killing himself, he's talking about that he's just staying alive, he's maintaining his life. In a sense you could say, yeah, he's not talking about killing himself, he's talking about I'm maintaining my life. That means I have no love of Krishna. How could I maintain my life? Why should I, number one, maintain it? And how is it that I'm still living, that I can even stay alive? How am I able to stay alive in separation? Thank you. So, that's an aspect of love. Excuse me. So when you hear something like that, then you think, okay, if I've never met Krishna, how could I have these feelings of love? That's a very good question. And the question is answered in Srimad Bhagavatam, in Krishna book. If you know the story of Rukmini wrote a letter to Krishna and said, I want to marry you. But the interesting thing is, she never met him, but she had heard about him. And by hearing about him, she had awakened her love. Just by hearing about him. And she actually developed to the stage of prema by hearing. And then at that stage, she was feeling separation from Krishna, even though she never met him, because she actually had love. So, that answers the question that yes, you and I can come to the stage of feeling separation from Krishna, even though, at least now in this life, consciously we don't remember our relationship with Krishna, having met him. But you will meet him through hearing and chanting, and you will develop love for him. And then when you develop love, now you can feel separation. And as you feel separation, that love increases. So, ladies and gentlemen, the good news about this is that if you engage in the process of hearing about Krishna and chanting about Krishna, then you'll develop love of Krishna. And when you develop love of Krishna, you'll feel separation. I just have to search here online a little bit, because I want to read some things that will just kind of tantalize us about love and separation. Yeah. Okay. There are different stages. I just wanted to describe them. Let's see if they're described here. And again, it may not be completely relevant to us now, but what it's teaching us is, it's just helping us understand. Actually, the stages aren't so well described here. It's helping us understand the nature of love. So what I just described is called Purvarag. And Purvarag is you're loving Krishna. You've never met him, and you're feeling separation even you haven't met him, because you've heard about him and your love is awakened. And then, as you're feeling separation, it's increasing that love. And now, what is relevant to us is, Prabhupada describes this in terms of relationship with the spiritual master. So, you can have this relationship with your spiritual master, where you can feel his presence more intensely through separation, because you'll tend to think about him more. You'll tend to feel his presence more. You may remember I told that story. Well, there's a couple of stories I told. When Prabhupada said that when he was all alone in New York, he always felt the presence of the spiritual master, because that's why he was in New York. So, he was kind of, you could say he was seeing his spiritual master everywhere. The internet connection's not so good here. Should we sit somewhere else? Or is it just the internet is having a bad day? The internet here is having a bad day, so frequently getting buffered means what? You can't hear what I say. So I'll repeat things a little bit.
It's not uploading fast enough.
But it could be I'm fine here, but from Sita Leela's point, maybe it may also have to do with your connection. You know. Is anyone else having that problem? You want to check the speed?
Yeah. Should be alright.
It seems alright on our side. Maybe a problem on your side. Oh yeah, so Alana's side is okay. Alana's on a different side of Sydney. She's on the fast side. Sita Leela, you may be on the slow side. You might have to move to the fast side. Okay. Yeah. So then, another story I told is that Prabhupada had come to one temple and he was very excited when he arrived at the temple. There were so many devotees there. So many brahmacharis had joined. And it was a huge gathering of devotees, probably the largest gathering of devotees that Prabhupada had seen. And then we later heard that Prabhupada said that I called my spiritual master to come and see. So Prabhupada was always feeling that his spiritual master was seeing everything. And Prabhupada writes, I always feel my spiritual master is with me. So I can speak from my own experience about this. This takes time to appreciate. What Prabhupada said is that in the physical presence, it's there when you have it, it's not there when you don't have it, but the absence and separation, it's always there through the instruction, through following the instruction of the Guru. And you can feel very close to your spiritual master. You can also feel very close to Krishna by following the instruction. So that's something that Prabhupada said a lot about our association with him. And I could say, and I think I could say this for practically all of us, that every time Prabhupada said that, we didn't really agree. I mean, we agreed in theory, but in our immaturity, we didn't agree in practice. But I think what we did agree with was that the presence of the spiritual master is felt differently in separation. And there's it's special when the spiritual master is present. And there's an aspect that's special which can only be felt in separation, that you can't feel when you're personally present with him. And I mentioned before that there were many devotees who felt closer to Prabhupada in service than they did when they were sitting next to him, because they felt that real connection was through service. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's sometimes Prabhupada would talk about like a disciple trying to enjoy the spiritual master. So they would hear from him, but not really hear from him. More they were just trying to enjoy the company, the association, how they felt. Or worse than that, trying to enjoy the actual physical property of the Guru. That's another discussion. But in regards to this discussion, just enjoying the company and the presence and relishing. But that's okay. But real association is the service. So, anyway, the point is that there's a special kind of taste or a special kind of feature in separation, and the closeness grows in a way that's different than in personal association. Now, what our scriptures teach us, and is quite obvious, is you have to have association to have separation. And we say in English, separation makes the heart grow fonder. So because you're thinking more about the person, you're always thinking about them. And when we're with somebody, we take it for granted, isn't it? So, it's going to take time to realize that, because I know most devotees they really appreciate being with their spiritual master, being with the devotees. There was a story, this one devotee couldn't live near a temple. She was living about, say, 30 minutes from the temple, and so therefore she couldn't visit the temple that much. And her spiritual master said something really interesting. He said, for you, it's actually better that you don't live near the temple. I don't know the details of this devotee, but he said that if you live near the temple, you may take the association of devotees for granted, but if you live away from the temple, you'll always be thinking of the temple and thinking about the devotees and how you're separated. So that's how separation works. Sometimes we take things for granted when we're too closely associated with them. One of my godbrothers was Prabhupada's secretary, and he said that after being secretary for a year or more, a year and a half, he wanted to just take up regular service because he felt he was taking the association for granted, and he was losing the kind of respect that most of the disciples had for Prabhupada who weren't in his personal association. And he saw the difference between the respect they had for Prabhupada and how he respected Prabhupada, because Prabhupada, he was with him all the time. And so he asked Prabhupada if he could leave that service because he felt he was lacking in his reverential attitude. And you might think, you're traveling with Srila Prabhupada, what more could you ask for? Isn't it interesting? And he was asking for separation. And he felt he would do better in separation. He would have a better attitude. So, that also happens. Okay, medicine man has come. Oh, it's turmeric water? Okay, if I make a face, it's to be expected, right? Thought it was fresh orange juice, but it turns out, look at, does that look like orange juice? It turns out it's turmeric water.
You can thank Guru Nishta for that.
Oh, Guru Nishta said, yeah, but with hing is better.
I think.
Hing is antihistamine, but it would really be nasty, wouldn't it? And salt. All right, get some hing. This is already nasty, so once you put some hing in it, we'll complete the nastiness of this preparation. Did you know that hing is an antihistamine? And in some antihistamines, if you look at the ingredients, it'll say asafoetida. This is salt and turmeric. I don't think asafoetida could ruin the taste of this. It's already not enjoyable. Anyway, okay, we're going to see if this works, if Guru Nishta is right. Okay. So, don't you find that story interesting? That here are the disciples with their guru, with Srila Prabhupada, of all gurus with Srila Prabhupada. And he's asking Srila Prabhupada if he can be, oh yeah, nice. Silence. He's asking Prabhupada if he can serve in separation. Wow, isn't that amazing? There's a verse that says, don't get too close to the deity and don't get too close to the spiritual master, because you could commit offense, take him for granted. Now, I have to balance this out. Now, Guru Nishta, this is making me sneeze. Maybe I might be allergic to salt. There's a nice offering by Tamal Krishna Maharaj, which was written probably in the late 90s. And it was an offering all about honey couldn't save this. No. This is just austerity. And it was an offering by Tamal Krishna Maharaj about how much benefit he got from Prabhupada's personal association. So he began by describing the glories of separation and how Shastra says separation is glorious. But then he described all the benefit he got from being with Prabhupada that he could only get being with Prabhupada. So Prabhupada says, when you can get the association, you should get it. It's not that I'm saying don't get it. And it's not that Krishna's associates didn't want to be with Krishna and they thought, no, it's better we're separated. They didn't seek out the separation, but when the separation came, their love became more intense. And in fact, by the divine arrangement of Yogamaya creates separation. So there's one stage is that when Radharani gets mad at Krishna, she experiences separation. And I have to investigate that a little. I'm not sure exactly how that works. I could speculate. In her anger, now she's separated because love brings you together and anger. So there's, now I'm angry with you, so I'm away from you. I can't connect. That's one stage. It's called mana. The first one is Purva Raga. You've never met Krishna, you feel separation. The second stage is you get angry at Krishna. Now, some of you who may think, well, how can you get angry at Krishna if you love him? Well, the anger is actually pleasing to Krishna. I don't know if we talked about this. This is another aspect of love, which is, you may not understand it, but it just shows the nature of love on the transcendental platform, how it has its own uniqueness. Sometimes Krishna does something, it makes Radharani mad, and then when she gets mad, then she leaves Krishna, because she's mad. And then Krishna has to pacify her, and this increases Krishna's his love for Radharani increases when she's mad at him, and then sometimes he has to bow down, pacify her, and then it increases the exchange. So that could be probably another aspect of separation and madness, anger. But Radharani wouldn't become angry at Krishna unless she knew that that anger would please Krishna. And just like when I love somebody and they do something that upsets me, I may become angry, but I don't become angry to increase the love. I become angry because I'm angry. So that's also, as we know in the material world, love and hate, they're opposite sides of the same coin. But in the spiritual world, love and hate are not opposite sides of the same coin. They're the same side of the same coin. Isn't that interesting? But that's I think, a huge difference between material love and spiritual love. Just like you also find the word lust is used in relation to the gopis. And so lust is the opposite of love in the material world, but the lust of the gopis is a feature of love, where it's an intense desire to serve Krishna. So lust and love on the spiritual platform are not opposite sides of the same coin, they're the same side of the same coin. So if Radharani ever becomes upset with Krishna, and she does sometimes, for example, they have an appointment to meet in the evening, and then Krishna comes late. And then Radharani hears, oh, Krishna is late because he's with Chandravali. Chandravali is competitor of Radharani. So Radharani becomes mad, she's angry at Krishna, and then she leaves. And then Krishna comes late and sees that Radharani's not there. And then he has to go pacify her. So one time this happened, and he dressed up as a sannyasi. And then he came begging, I think he was begging for flour. He went to her house and said, so they didn't recognize him. He said, I'm begging for like flour and ghee or something. So Radharani's mother or mother-in-law or grandmother was going to give it, and then Krishna said, no, it has to be, can only be given by a virgin girl, which of course was Radharani, was the only virgin girl. And then she brought out those things, and she didn't know it was him. And he said, no, I don't actually want those things. I want your anger. In other words, I want to pacify you. And then she realized it was Krishna. So she took the flower and gave whatever it was and just poured it on his head. Yeah, they do those things. Yeah. So the anger just increased the loving exchange. So it's all orchestrated. It's orchestrated by the spiritual energy of Yoga Maya to increase loving affection. So if Krishna becomes angry or Radharani becomes angry, it's only to increase their love. But somehow, when she becomes angry, it causes separation. In this case, they were separated because of her anger. There's another kind of separation. It's called prema vaichitya. And prema vaichitya means that, and we see this in the material world also, like somebody's visiting you and they're very dear to you, and then the day they're leaving, you're starting to feel separation. So even you're in their presence, you're feeling their absence. So that happens a lot to Radharani, that she's with Krishna, but she fears the separation. There's one famous story, I don't know if it's famous, but we hear it a lot. There was a bumblebee coming around, and then the bee is called Madhu. And Radharani was concerned about the bee. And then the bee went away, and then someone said, I don't know who, but someone said Madhu was gone. And she was with Krishna, and Krishna's name is Madhu, Madhusudan. And so Madhu, she thought it meant Krishna. And so Krishna was there, and someone said Krishna's gone, and in separation she couldn't see Krishna. So she was distressed and anxious, feeling separation even though Krishna was there in front of her. And she didn't see him. So that's a kind of separation. There's another kind of separation. Isn't that interesting? So either you're feeling he's going to leave, or he's still there and you feel he's going to leave. Now, Lord Chaitanya, when he was in Jagannath Puri, he was always feeling intense separation from Krishna. So that mood is there in Jagannath also. I'm trying to find the description. Excuse me. It's called Prema Vaichitya, and then the common form, the most common form, is they're just separated by, Prema Vaichitya, the story of Kurukshetra. I think I've told you this story before. This is an interesting story. Now, this is kind of an elevated topic, and I don't expect you to try, when you hear this, to try to enter into these feelings, but just understand they exist. So I must have told you this story, but anyway, we'll tell it again. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that he felt that he would like to die in Kurukshetra, that it was a higher place than Vrindavan. Or he said something like, only a fool wants to die in Vrindavan. But the realized souls, they want to die in Kurukshetra. I think actually Guru Nishna recommended this because this was my recipe. Was that right? But I think I read this helps with allergy. It's healthy in general. So Krishna went from Dwarka with friends and family to Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra is a holy place of pilgrimage, for some pilgrimage, and not that far from Vrindavan. So the residents of Vrindavan went there to meet Krishna. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but the residents of Vrindavan, when Krishna is in Vrindavan, he's in his form of Shyamasundar. That's the original form, two hands playing a flute. But when he leaves Vrindavan, he assumes the form of Vishnu form. So when he goes to Mathura, he's in the Vishnu or Vasudeva aspect. Even in Vrindavan, when he kills demons, he does that in his Vasudeva aspect. And then in Dwarka, he marries 16 queens, and he lives according to Dharma. And you could say in Vrindavan, he doesn't live according to Dharma because he dances with other men's wives. So he's exhibiting his Leela in a different way in Vrindavan as in his original form. But when he's out of Vrindavan, the relationships are different. And the relationships he has with the residents of Vrindavan can't exist outside of Vrindavan. They can only exist in Vrindavan. He only is in that form in Vrindavan. And the atmosphere which Vrindavan creates with the forest and Govardhan Hill and Jamuna, Radhakund, Shamakund, they're all necessary to enhance the relationship. It's the best way I could describe it is, as I often say, if you just met a girl and you really like her and you want to impress her, don't take her out to dinner to McDonald's. Take her to an expensive restaurant. So Vrindavan is like that expensive restaurant. It's the right atmosphere. It's only in that atmosphere can the exchange between the Brajbasis and Krishna take place. It can't take place outside of that. So when they're in Kurukshetra, Krishna is there, but they can't exchange there. And the best example I could give in terms of the separation they're feeling, I don't know if it's the best example. It's an example that comes to mind, is I don't know if you've ever had a friend in prison, but probably on television or movies you may have seen, that when you go to meet someone in prison, often they're behind a glass. It's like I don't know, I saw this image in my mind, is there's many windows, like it would be like a bank teller, which is it's just encaged in glass. And so you're talking to the inmate, and somebody next to you is talking to another inmate and next to you, and so there's a little glass, then a wall, then glass and wall. Is that right? You've been in prison? You've seen it in the movies, right? Anyway, that's how they do it in the movies, I guess. I've been in prison before for distributing Prabhupada's books, but nobody visited me. So I can't tell you what it's like, but I can tell you what the movies are like. So I don't know why I know this. I don't watch movies. But in any case, imagine the dearmost friend of your life or your dearmost lover is in prison, and you're talking to them through a glass and there's a little speaker, it's a little microphone on your side, a little speaker on your side, and they give you a little bit of time to talk. So you can talk for like 20 minutes and that's it, and you can't even touch them, and then when you go, you're gone. You can't really have an intimate exchange. And even if you could, even if there wasn't the glass there, but there's all these other people around, so you couldn't exchange intimately because you'd be restricted and embarrassed and so forth. So, in Kurukshetra, thank you. I just got an upgrade to business class. Business class cushion. Now I might be sitting too high for you. Okay. So you imagine you're with someone and you can't, but you're not with them. You're with them and you're not with them. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur said Kurukshetra. He didn't say it was like a prison, but he said in Kurukshetra you're with Krishna, but you're not with Krishna because you can't be with him in that environment. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that the separation of the residents of Vrindavan reached its greatest intensity at Kurukshetra, and therefore he wanted to die there. And so what he's saying is that the more intense separation is, the more there is love. Now, Rath Yatra, we've all attended, or we will attend Rath Yatra. Rath Yatra exemplifies the residents of Vrindavan taking Krishna back to Vrindavan from Kurukshetra. And the Jagannath Puri temple represents Kurukshetra, and in Jagannath Puri they take Rath Yatra down the main road. What's the main road called in Rath Yatra? The main road, the Royal Road, Grand, I think it's called Grand Road. And at the end of Grand Road, some miles down, there's another temple called Gundicha. And Gundicha represents Vrindavan. And so the mood of Rath Yatra is that we're taking Krishna back to Vrindavan. And so there's a lot of separation going on. And during Rath Yatra, Lord Chaitanya, he sang a verse which was sung by Radharani or the gopis in Kurukshetra. That, we're here together in Kurukshetra, but it's not Vrindavan. It's the same moonlit night, but we're not in Vrindavan, and so we can't enjoy. So we have to bring you back to Vrindavan. So that's another example of the most intense feeling of separation being present in the hearts of the gopis and the Brajbasis. Even Krishna's present in front of them because they can't have him. Isn't that interesting? And if you read Bhagavatam, it'll describe this misery that the residents of Braj are going through in separation from Krishna. And that misery is actually not misery as we understand it, but it's yielding them the highest form of ecstasy and love. Now, isn't it interesting that in the spiritual sense, when we talk about love, simultaneously we talk about ecstasy. But as you know, materially speaking, when you talk about love, I mean, there may be ecstasy, but generally, you don't really use that word, I don't think, so commonly when you speak of love. And also, certainly when you're in love, in the material world, I think the word frustration, anger, failed expectations, all these things, they come up. They're part of that. Excuse me. Do I look? They're part of that problem. They're part of the existence of love, which shows the impurity of the love, right? So even there's distress on the transcendental level, but it's not distress like we experience in this world, when your lover does something that upsets you. Your lover cheats on you. Krishna cheats on Radharani all the time. He's with Chandravali. She's on the opposing party. And she becomes angry. And why does Krishna do that? He's just doing it because he knows how to increase love. So you understand on the material level how love by its nature is full of all these emotions which are part of the modes of nature. That's, our philosophy is that even if you're in the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, the mode of ignorance will affect you. So love in the material world is affected by material qualities. Just like Prabhupada says that sometimes the gopis are envious of other gopis. But that envy is transcendental. So it inspires them. They want to be like the other gopi, not to be better, or because they don't like them, but because they want to serve Krishna better. So the point is that what we distinguish on the transcendental platform is that when all these qualities come into love, which appear not to be love, it's all enhancing the love because it's transcendental to the modes of nature, so it doesn't have any of the material qualities. And that's why sometimes it's so hard for someone who's not trained to understand Krishna Lila, because they see a boy and a girl, and when you see a boy and a girl, then you have all kinds of thoughts which relate to boys and girls of this world. Or then it can seem that Krishna's Lila is no different. And so at least we should understand that Krishna's Leelas are transcendental. So in relation to this topic, when we read about the distress of separation and the pain, and it was like Radharani's crying, she's about ready to die. You know, when Krishna finally came back to Vrindavan, he saw Radharani almost dead, crying. Can you imagine that scene, the intensity of that scene? But we have to remember that was just intense love, and therefore the misery is actually causing intense ecstasy, because from the transcendental platform there is no misery. Misery is part of the material world. So we know love, so-called love in the material world, it has a lot of misery added to it. So just remember that whenever you're reading about so-called misery that exists in transcendental love, it's not misery, it's just nourishing, ecstatic feelings. But always remember, the word misery is applicable to the material world, and therefore misery is applicable to everything in the material world. At some point it becomes miserable. I mean, even like sometimes people are madly in love, so-called, but they can have a horrible fight and really suffer and not talk to one another and so on. So that can happen with Radha and Krishna, but it is enhancing their love. It's ecstatic. Therefore, everything they do is ecstatic. Everything love on the transcendental platform, it's all ecstatic. It does. To our untrained eyes, it may not look ecstatic, but it is. So, separation is being glorified in the Shishastakam. I'm crying in separation. I feel like I'm dying in separation. Yeah, that's like amazing, right? But that's how we have to see it. Okay. Hold on. I want to read you a few things, just a few shlokas, if I can find them. See what else we can find. Yes. Anyway, Prabhupada always said that separation is the highest. I want to try to find a quote. Well, listen to this. It's from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Those under the shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can understand that his mode of worship of the Supreme Lord Krishna in separation is the real worship of the Lord. When the feelings of separation become very intense, one attains the stage of meeting Sri Krishna. So you meet, when it becomes intense, you see Krishna in front of you in feelings of separation. And the meeting is more intense. Is that interesting? Hold on, please. Okay. I was looking for something specifically I had prepared last time, and then we couldn't give the class, and I didn't have time to look at this. So just give me a moment. Anyway, there's a definition that Prabhupada gives one meaning of the Maha Mantras of Krishna, please accept me. And that is, in a sense, for us who have not achieved Krishna Prema yet, that there is a sense of separation that we feel even from Krishna. In other words, it's kind of a theoretical separation, like I may not feel it as much as I know it. I mean, I do feel it, but I can't feel it as I would feel it if I had awakened my love for Krishna, because when I reach a stage of prema, then I realize Krishna's presence in the holy name. And seeing the deity, I realize Krishna's there and so on. But until that stage, I won't fully realize it. But the separation is in the sense of, I left you. I understand that I left you and I have a relationship with you, at least in a dormant stage, and I want to awaken that. So Prabhupada at one point said one of the meanings of the Maha Mantra is, Krishna, please accept me. Please accept me. So please accept me means accept me back into the relationship. So I'm feeling the separation of not being in the relationship. And how do I feel the separation? I feel it through the miseries in the material world. By suffering, then I'm kind of reminded, or I should be reminded, that I'm separate from Krishna. That why, things are bad, things can get very bad in this world. And whenever we get sick or something difficult happens, oftentimes we're reminded that I'm in the material world, separated from Krishna. I made the choice, and that's why I'm having this problem. So we can experience separation through suffering. It's, as I said, it's not the same, but it's a form of separation that Krishna, I'm separated from you, this is a result of my separation. And please accept me, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Please accept me back in the relationship. I'm feeling separation from you, and that it's kind of, the separation is a feeling of just the voidness of material life. And I can feel, in a sense, that you're absent from my life, although I haven't fully experienced you. But the little experience I have, then it makes me aware that this is what I want, this is what I need. This is what my heart is hankering for. So even if we're in Maya and we're aware of this, then we can feel separation from Krishna. Not that I'm recommending you fall into Maya today so that you suffer and therefore can feel separation. It's not what we actually define as separation in our philosophy. But I'm saying is that it can remind you, the suffering reminds us that I'm separated from Krishna. And that our chanting, our japa, is a prayer to be reconnected from a relationship which we disconnected. I was having a realization the other day. It was kind of interesting. And I was having class last Monday, a week ago. And I think that class is up. It should be up. At least it's... I recorded it, yeah, it's on audio. I recorded it audio. And so we were talking about how Krishna is telling Arjuna, you can do whatever you want. And then right after he says you can do whatever you want, he's really saying, but please do what I ask you. Because I really want you to come back to me. I really want this relationship, and if you do what I ask, then you'll have the relationship. And I was thinking, this is really interesting, that Krishna, not only is he giving instruction, but in the end of the Gita, in these verses, he's revealing how much he wants us to follow that instruction. Or you can say he's revealing how much he loves us. Without saying it directly, he says, well, I'm giving you these instructions because you're my friend, you're my dear friend. But he's really saying, really, I want you to follow this because you're so dear to me, because I love you so much. So I was thinking afterwards, I think this is really interesting, is that originally we had an opportunity to be Krishna conscious, to be with Krishna eternally, and we rejected it. Right? Said, no, I'm going to take my chances elsewhere. And so now Krishna comes through the Bhagavad Gita, and he's basically saying the same scenario is there, that here Krishna is coming again and saying, I like this relationship, and we have an opportunity now when we read the Gita, every conditioned soul has the opportunity to again do the same thing that they originally did, was to say, I don't really want your invitation. I just want to go on as I go on. So really Bhagavad Gita is kind of a replay, or gives the opportunity to replay what happened when we originally became conditioned, where we said, no, I'm going to do it on my own. I don't need you. And here Krishna is giving the Gita, saying, I'd like you to love me, and please follow my instructions, it's for your benefit. No, I don't really need you. So we have an opportunity to do it again, like the second time, damage. Same damage done again. So it's a nice way of looking at Krishna's instructions as invitation into relationship. Anyway, I think we can feel separation in some way from Krishna, not as it's officially described, but unofficially in the sense of what we experience without Krishna is quite difficult. And so the difficulties we experience should remind us of separation, in the sense of the choice I made to be separate from Krishna has resulted in the pain that I'm experiencing presently, or the difficulty, or the distress. And that should remind me of how much I suffer when I'm separated from Krishna, and how much, therefore, I'm feeling separation through suffering. It's not suffering transcendentally, but it's suffering nonetheless. And that can empower us, especially in our chanting, oh Krishna, please accept me back. I want this relationship, because just without you, nothing works. And also, you can experience that in relationships that don't work out. You can realize that actually the relationship I really want is a relationship with Krishna, or relationships that have Krishna in the center, and when I don't have that, then I suffer. Right? Does that make sense? So, yes, there is, in a sense, a feeling of separation. We can have, one of my godbrothers said that just our general lack of Krishna consciousness and the difficulties that we have to undergo to be Krishna conscious can also be a kind of separation. Just the separation that I'm not Krishna conscious and I want to be. So I'm feeling separation from Krishna consciousness. I'm not feeling intense love as would be if I had prema in separation. But I'm just feeling separation from being Krishna conscious. So when I'm chanting, I'm praying, and I'm still confronting so many anarthas and so many problems. I can feel separation from being Krishna conscious just by confronting my anarthas. Right? So that's the kind of separation that we can deal with. But the main purpose of this talk was to show how there's this level of separation, which is full of externally pain, distress, and other distressful symptoms. But it's all in heightening love. So that in pure love, this topic is about the truth about love, in real love there is no misery. There may be distress, quote unquote, but there's no misery. And the distress increases the ecstasy, increases the meditation on the beloved, which therefore increases the love. So all this separation is all helping it. And so therefore that means on the spiritual platform, even the bad is good. There is no bad ultimately, but what appears to be bad is also good. Does that make sense? So that's the huge distinction between material love and spiritual love. So why don't we stop? We've gone 59 minutes, and if you have any questions or comments, we can take them now. I don't see any questions or comments here so far. Maybe you don't have any, but discussion is nice. If something's not clear, I think it's okay. If you feel bad that you're not Krishna conscious, that's good. That's, as I'm saying, it's kind of separation. But it's only good if it inspires you. It's not good if it discourages you. And oftentimes we get discouraged in that kind of separation. So I don't mean it in a negative sense. So I'm not Krishna conscious. There's a feeling of separation. I meant it in the sense of that separation being empowering. Yes, the separation being motivating. So understand it that way, because I know a lot of times devotees, when they reflect on how far they are from Krishna, they can get discouraged, thinking, well, will I ever get there? No, that was what Rukmini taught us, that you will get there. By hearing about Krishna, you will get there. The love will develop, it's there. And so don't give up. And allow your lack of Krishna consciousness to form your inspiration to be Krishna conscious, not to discourage you, which can easily happen. When we look at our lack, it's meant to inspire us to improve. It's meant to inspire us to see how much we need Krishna. It's meant to help us feel that separation from being in our constitutional position. It's meant to make us want to be in that position. So don't ever let it discourage you. That would be a huge mistake. Okay? So we can end here. Is that okay? I don't see any questions. Does that mean you didn't understand everything, or does that mean everything's been explained? Sometimes I can't tell. Did I do a good job or a bad job? There are no questions. That meant I either did a really good job or nobody understood anything, so they have no questions to ask. Okay, Eddie has a question. Sometimes the separation can cause forgetfulness. Yeah. Then when there's forgetfulness, you forget Krishna because you're in the material world. Yeah, then you suffer more, and then the suffering causes you to remember. You forgot what it was like to forget Krishna. Now you suffer, now you remember. Yeah, of course that's the way the material world is made. That you're, the separation means you're in the world of Maya, and in the world of Maya you forget Krishna, and then it causes future distress. How can you deal with it? Well, the best and most generic answer is that we have a process, we have to take shelter of the holy name as much as possible. But the problem is okay, here's the best answer. The problem is when you allow yourself to get in this stage of forgetfulness, then it's very difficult to deal with. It's kind of like asking, let's say you're an athlete and you allow yourself to become unhealthy, and you say, well, when I become unhealthy, then I don't want to exercise, or I lose the desire to take care of myself. So how can I deal with that? And my answer would be, don't become unhealthy. Because if you don't become unhealthy, you won't have to deal with that. And so what I'm saying is, when you fall into forgetfulness of Krishna, because Maya is so strong, at that point sometimes you don't have the desire or the power to get yourself out of Maya. And I'm sure you experienced that. So therefore the answer is, don't allow yourself to get in a position where you become so weak that you don't have the energy or the inspiration or the intelligence to lift yourself back up. And knowing your limits, then you should be more careful and conscious of that. Right? You understand? So I know if I allow myself to fall into this position, this low, then I can't pick myself up. So therefore, instead of giving an answer to how will I pick myself up from that low position, saying you probably won't, or you'll have difficulty, so just don't allow yourself to get that low. Be conscious that when I get that low, I can't pick myself up, or it's difficult, so just do things so you don't get that low, so you never get into that position where you forget so much that you lose the desire to be Krishna conscious. Now, you might say, well, how do I know? By experience, you'll know what happens when I do this, I forget Krishna. What happens when I do that, I forget Krishna. Yeah, so you'll know. You know from experience, don't you? I mean, this is what I call the red lines. Like you have, like Sita had a line around her. So Lakshman said, I'm drawing a line. Nobody can come in this line. It's protected. So if anybody comes, don't go out the line, because they can harm you if you go outside the line. But inside the line, they can't come. They won't be able to come over. I don't know, they'll get shocked or they'll faint or something. Or they're just blocked from moving in. And if you look at your life and you think of your life like a circle, and then you imagine, when I have a circle inside is my circle of Krishna consciousness, how far does that go? How far do I have to go out? How do I want to say this? What's outside that circle? Like, I think you know when you walk outside the circle. I think you know what that is. So, know what your circle is and try to stay inside it. And therefore there won't be forgetfulness. You understand? It's like you know what your limits are in terms of what you can and can't do, and know where your red line is. When I do this, I've stepped over the red line, I have problems. And so you know your limitation. I shouldn't do this. Or always when I stay up late at night, or when I watch a movie, or when I associate too closely with the opposite sex, or I read this magazine, or I listen to this music, it starts me on a downfall. Or when I keep going to bed late every night, it starts me on a downward spiral. So I have to know, that's your red line. You can't do that. You have to stop yourself before you get there. Anyway, that's the answer for now. Okay? Is that all right? So Guru Nisha says, separation from Krishna consciousness is a big one. Never thought of it that way. Yeah. That's the separation we're going to feel right now. I feel unhappy if I'm not Krishna conscious. So I'm feeling, in my Maya, I'm actually feeling separation from Krishna. More intensely, in a sense. Not that you want to get into Maya to feel it, but you do feel it. At least frame it in that way. Understand that's what you're feeling. When you're in Maya and you're not happy, you're actually feeling separation from Krishna. Reminds me of what you said, material life is a camouflage nightmare. Yeah, I don't remember saying that. Put that on the WhatsApp, that's a good one. Material life is a camouflage nightmare. You don't realize it, so you walk into the nightmare, you realize it later. But, as Prabhupada said, Maya is very strong and very subtle, so we always don't see Maya coming. But we should know for each of us have a certain kind of Maya, according to who we are, according to our nature. And so you want to know where your weaknesses are, so you don't dabble in that area. Some of us are weak in one thing, some of us are weak in another. Some devotees are very intellectual, and that could be their downfall. They want to read a million books and speculate and theorize, and they don't just like hearing Vedic literature because it lays everything out, and they want to be more academic in their approach, and that could be a problem. They could even conceive of things differently from the way Prabhupada did. If they get too philosophical or too analytical. They could analyze themselves out of Siddhanta. It's possible. Some people have that weakness. Some people pride is a weakness. Some people anger is a weakness. Some people sex is a weakness. I mean, it's a weakness for all of us, but I mean, some people, it predominates. It's just this one thing. Or workaholics. Some people are workaholics. They'll work their way around the clock. They'll have no sadhana. They like to do things. So for them, that becomes a weakness because they'll neglect their sadhana. So you have to know what your weakness is. And that's your red line. So when you're getting near it, you start to realize, oh yeah, I'm getting too close to that red line. I need to pull back. Okay? All right, so we're going to end here. No more questions. Does it appear there's no more questions? Oops, you get to see my finger. Okay. All right, so we'll stop here. I think we have enough food for thought, and this will go up on Ustream immediately after. And Hare Krishna, we will see you Saturday maybe, I don't know. I think it's Saturday during this time of class I'm going to be at a Rath Yatra. Sunday we can do, for sure. I'll let Guru Nishta know, okay? Srila Prabhupada.